Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today we're going to talk about the 3 front desk scripts to stop those holiday cancellations with our specialist here, Dee Bills from the Front Office Guru. And Dee is the founder of the Front Office Guru and the creator of the Front Office Training Academy to talk about building that winning front desk team. And so Dee's successfully built training systems and processes in her own PT practice, resulting in consistent arrivals over 95% and a growth rate of over 300%. And now she helps private practice owners and office managers build a winning front desk team and, crucially, stop losing money from your front desk. So today she's going to teach us how to prevent those holiday cancellations before they start. So Dee, welcome back.
Hey Neil, thanks so much for having me. It's always fun doing these podcasts and interviews with you. So thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Dee's a great friend of mine. We've worked together many years. She is an absolute whiz when it comes to front desk processes, and it really is about those front desk processes, right? Like just getting the systems in place, the scripts in place, the training in place, and you have that winning front desk person. Boy, that makes everything happen a lot smoother in the clinic.
And that's the goal, right? We're here to help people as providers. We're here to help people, and it makes it really hard to help people when the schedule is not full, when they're not showing up, when we have patients that really aren't our ideal patient. And that's really where your front desk comes in. And that way the providers can put their attention where they're supposed to, and the front desk can drive the patients in, get them showing up, get the providers helping people. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so for our audience, Dee, can you just briefly explain what do you do at Front Office Guru and the results that you've helped PT owners with?
Yeah, so excitingly, since the last time we chatted, Front Office Guru has made a huge shift. We not only provide training, online platform, fully accessible training for your front desk, but now we also have a coaching program for your front office managers. So we really are trying to hit the entire system in the front office so that you have that front office manager who's there really ensuring the team has the training they need to be able to successfully help their patients, is tracking it, managing it. And then we also have my training system or training platform for your front desk to learn how to handle patients and manage the plan of care and manage all those crazy things that patients say to you.
Yeah. And there's such a complexity. We really have to appreciate what really happens there in the admin world, right? At the front desk, and whether you're, a clinic with a couple providers or you're a clinic that has 10 locations and multiple office managers and directors, the complexity increases, right? The more that you grow, and which is where the standardization of that system, right, and the delivery of the front desk and the moving of all the people, patients in and out, right? And that's something that you have seen as you work with clinics and really help them systematize and standardize that kind of front desk operations. What does the impact that have for them on their clinics?
Well, yeah, the more standardized the practice is, especially the front office, the more you're going to see consistency with your patients, right? As PTs, PT or rehab practices, our job is to make sure that our patients are, showing up, scheduling and showing up for their plan of care and, actually achieving that successful completion. And so one of the things, we really look at the metrics of the front desk. And so, we've got a much higher rate of lead conversions. People are spending money marketing and promoting the practice. And so we're seeing closer to 85-90% conversions so that you're actually making your bang for your buck with those new patients. And then obviously arrival rate, average practices that do my program and fully implement the cancellation training, they're hitting 94-95% arrivals consistently. And then, your plan of cares, that matters too. So we're focusing on that, and collections, right? Trying to get 98 to 100% collections on a given day versus becoming the bank, which we can't afford to do. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you've probably seen tons of this, but when the clinic is 85% arrivals, going up 5% or 10% is huge. It's not like you're adding on any more additional new patients. It's just you're getting people to show up for care, right?
That, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I think a lot of times, we get focused on those cancellations, and they cause that twitch, that, oh, I can't believe another cancellation, or we had 10 today, or whatever it was. But, and then so what do we do? Well, we're trying to fill the schedule. So we're driving in more, we're marketing, we're promoting more, not dissing on marketing and promotions, but you have to find that balance, and so just being able to fill the schedule with that list of patients you already have, now you're better able to say, okay, this is really how many new patients a week I need, because I'm not losing, that whole bucket is not just draining from every angle. It's, it's staying relatively full, and we're much more consistent. We're happier. Practice owners are happier. Mm-hmm. Patients are happier. And the front office staff feels more successful. And that's really my goal, is to see your staff, it can be a very transient position. It can be a position where the staff feel like they're consistently failing because patients throw a lot of crazy stuff at them. And so, I really didn't start this. I started this to help my front office team years ago. It's just to not be the effect of all the crazy stuff patients say, all the negativity, all the consistent cancellations and problems. I wanted them to be able to really be in control of it. And then it just became something that everybody wanted. And it's kind of really how I got started.
Yeah, out of necessity, right? So you figured it out in the clinic, and then like, okay, we got something really working here. Let me teach others how to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's, and so my goal is, look, I mean, as a PT, which is where I really started in my life and my career, as a PT, I look at it and I think to myself, every empty spot is a patient we're not helping today. And so, that for me, that bothered me. I felt like, if I have 100 spots on my schedule, I want to see 100 patients today, and I'm not looking just at revenue. I'm looking at, those are people that need us. And there's really no excuse for our schedules to be empty any time of year. And it's just about training and keeping that training in and keeping that consistency so that, our patients get the care they need, and everybody feels happier. I don't know. That's my experience anyways. When we're really producing and helping people, everybody's happy. So
yeah, you want to win, right? And your front desk wants to win. And usually we think, oh, they're not doing a good job at the front desk. But a lot of times maybe they just don't know how to operate it well, right? Or they've never been trained well enough for it. And so then they burn out, they churn out, and now you're stuck trying to find another person to replace them, right? And it's that revolving wheel we feel as owners at the front desk, and it's frustrating as anything.
Yeah. And look, I mean, it is probably the highest fail rate position for a person. And why? Because, let's say you hire somebody and they're really great, right? You hire this person and they're so motivated and they're so interested. And I say this all the time when I'm working with office managers. I was like, they're really the number one reason your front desk staff will fail and leave is they'll tell you it's to go get more money. Right? Oh, I'm going to this next company. It's to make more money. The reality there, what we found is it's truly, it's that increase. It's the number of fails that somebody has, right? So if I try to help 100 people and I am unsuccessful, meaning I fail to help them in some fashion, fail to handle them, the more fails I have, they stack up, and I start to feel more weighed down. I start to feel overwhelmed, and I'm just really not feeling effective. So what do? Well, I'm not feeling effective. I feel unsuccessful. I'm going to go find the next job that's going to make me feel, because in my mind, I think, oh, that's got to be what it is. I'm just not happy here, whatever. In reality, it's just, I don't have the tools I need to successfully handle patients. So I don't see myself winning. So that's why I move on. And so my goal is that they're winning, right? And the more we train our front office staff and keep that in place, the more they win. And that's the key, right? It's not just the training, it's the keeping it going.
Yeah.
So,
and I think sometimes as owners, like we think that, okay, when I'm talking tools, I'm thinking of, okay, what kind of system do I need at the front desk? What kind of computer system or software, or like part of my EMR, but it's really the tool of human communication. And you got to realize that that's the soft skill. So when people come to work at that front desk, some people have a background where they're just great communicators. They can really just get people to do stuff. And they have that kind of soft skill training that they've developed over their life. And then there's others that may may seem that way, but then they don't have enough of that soft skill. They don't have those
Yeah.
kind of human communication tools. And I think that's a lot of what you refer to also.
Yeah. And that's a perfect way to describe it. And I think we all have to remember that, you know, that's a hard position. It is not an easy position. It really should not be just filled with a body. You know, I joke with my office managers when we're working together. I'm like, look, you do not need Weekend at Bernie's at your front desk, right? You cannot afford to have a dead body at your front desk. And I mean that kindly. And you have to be there to empower your staff so that they don't become a dead body, you know, and it's a tough position because patients are throwing consideration after problem after upset after frustration. You know, we get the brunt of insurance companies and all of that. And so, and it is truly a diamond in the rough to find somebody who has it's easy for them to have those soft skills, right? It's very easy for them. That is a very rare person. And so the only way you're going to have that is to find a really motivated person and train them and keep that training in and really put your attention there. You know, as PTs, we went to school for however long, you know, now they're going to school for 6-7 years. You know, I went to school for 5.5. I had a master's and I graduated. I still got training in my first year, like heavily at the hospital I worked at, and then moved on, you know, and so it was like, our training never ends as PTs, and yet we don't do the same thing in private practice with our front desk. And the ones that do are the ones that have very successful, if you want to look at it this way, a very successful front office machine, right? And that's what we need. And I'm not talking cookie cutter, but I'm talking a machine that just runs like a well-oiled machine, no matter whose butt is sitting in that chair. And then you see, you know, you just see, it's just a very different, very different viewpoint and operating basis at that point in your practice.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you said it before. I mean, if we think about that, you know, if you realize like how vital that position is for your practice, you're going to invest a lot more into it, right? You're going to make sure you pay someone really well to be in that position so you can get an A player. And you're going to invest in them, in their training, because I think if you have that understanding, like, okay, what happens in that position directly impacts the outcomes of my therapist. Because if the patient can show up, your therapist can treat them, they can get a much better outcome. But if the patient shows up 1 out of 3 times, you can't get the same kind of outcome from your physical therapist, right? And then we know that reflects in the outcome for the patient, but then it reflects the public relations of your company because, hey, people aren't saying this place is absolutely amazing. And financially, that's having a big impact on you because a person who should have come in for multiple times came in 1 or 2 times, right? And so that you're losing that monetary side of it also. But I think the downstream impact on outcomes is something that it's kind of hard to comprehend sometimes, but if you look at it that way, it's such a critical role for the outcomes of the therapists.
That's right. Absolutely. And, you know, and I like to say very often, the thing we all have to remember is, you know, we are a team, right? You've got your patient and then you've got your provider and then you've got your front desk. And if we work really well as a well-oiled machine, that is my favorite thing. That's Mike's favorite thing if we're in the practice, and is to hear a patient come through the door and go, wow, you guys are like a well-oiled machine. You just, every little step along the way, nothing's forgotten. You know, I mean, think about the rest of healthcare. That is not the rest of healthcare right now. And, you know, I think PT practices, especially, you know, PTOT speech, we like to think of ourselves as, you know, it's like, this is our family. And when you're a patient, you're part of our family. And we're very, you know, down to earth and all of that. But the unfortunate side of things is the patients that are coming to us have had bad experiences other places. And it's our job, our responsibility to really change their mindset. And the only way we can do that is to show them and prove to them that we're different. So yeah, that's really why I do what I do. It's where all this training came from. But it's just really helping people. I think for me, the biggest mindset shift is helping practice owners and managers really look at the value in investing in their team. And I don't mean just financially investing. I truly mean the time set aside to really make sure those team members are trained up fully, right? I think that's can be the hardest part for a practice, but I need them to produce. And so pulling them off lines is so hard. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, you're actually losing more money by not pulling them off lines for an hour a week, or,
Right.
30 minutes 2 or 3 times a week. You're losing more money. Same with your clinicians. If there's training they can be doing and you're not pulling them off lines, and but that's X dollars I could be making. I'm like, but that's X dollars you're losing with this patient, and this patient who, like you said, isn't really participating in their plan of care at all. And, that's negative PR. So there's no referrals coming in there. There's no success story coming in there. And then, it's potentially somebody not coming back to you, and it just keeps stacking up. And so, that's really the goal here, is helping people see it is extremely valuable to invest in training.
Absolutely. So let's do something a little different here.
Yeah.
And I know we kind of had planned this out, have a little fun with it, but I think we all know, like, it's a challenging time of year. The holidays are around. People are super busy with their lives, with all the different holiday activities that are going on. And it's a time when people kind of put off their PT, right? Because they've got family in town, they've got activities that they're trying to do. It's madness. They're trying to work, whatever it may be. So we have to do an even harder job of controlling that, right? And having activity. So can you run us through some scripts here that our audience can use with their front desks around this time? And I know that we were going to talk about like 3 main scripts that they could do for that.
Yeah. And the cool thing about these scripts is the reality is they can be used any time of year, all the time, consistently. I tend to ramp this up a lot and during the holidays, because people are like, oh, I can't keep my schedule full. And I'm like, you really can't afford to not end this year full, because you're going into January where, insurance reimbursements change or insurance renews, and patients are like, oh, I want to back off. And so you got to get this rhythm building now, and you just got to get people coming in. And so today I wanted to talk with you about how to schedule out a plan of care. That would be first. And then we'll talk about a simple script, believe it or not, that is an addendum to my cancellation training that helps to prevent cancels and no-shows, just simply by handling the patient right there in the office at every visit. So I thought if you and I could talk about them a little bit and give everybody the background of where it came from, and then we could demo it out so that, at the end, everybody, you have the actual demo of it. And if you want to include the link on wherever you share this with to those scripts, so they actually have the written scripts, I'm totally cool with that as well.
Do that.
So
that'd be great.
A nice little holiday gift to give everybody. And
all right, so let's talk about that first script here, which is around standard plan of care.
Yeah. So, one of the things, I have a rule, and the rule is that no patient should leave your practice without more visits. Right? And it sounds so like, well, duh. But the reality is, how many patients walk up front after their eval or their assessment, and they say to the front desk, I know she said 3 times a week, but I just want to come 1, or I just want to come 2. And, and then what happens? What does your staff say? What can they say at that point? They almost feel like they're boxed in. And so the script that we're going to talk about here was a script I created. Gosh, it's probably been 10, 12 years for my team on, look, this is how we're going to guide the patient, right? So instead of allowing the patient to decide, right, it should have occurred during the assessment eval, back in that private room or private space. That agreement should have already been made, right? No patient should be walking up front to the front desk or the patient care coordinators if the therapist has not gotten their agreement that, hey, I'm going to do this, right? There should be policy on that first, because that's our role as PTs. And so how we do it is our therapists actually walk the patient to the front desk. That way there's no distraction that occurs from point A to point B. And the therapist gives a report to the front desk, right? I said I worked in a hospital many years ago. Just listening to the nurses give each other a report, was a very big key to success. And so think of it this way. As the therapist, I'm in control of this patient. I'm their guide. I'm helping them. I get them to agree to this plan of care. But if I just send them up front, I don't know what's going to happen in the patient's mind between the eval room and the front desk. And think about it. Your patients could pick up their phones. They could get 17 texts from their kids. They start thinking of their grocery list. They, in their mind, Maybe they came for one appointment thinking we had that magic wand that we could go, I bestow on you full health. How cool would that be? And so our therapists walk them up front. They reintroduce them to the PEC or PCC that they're going to be working with, right? Who's going to schedule out that plan of care.
And that's patient care coordinator, right?
Yeah, patient care coordinators. Yeah, thank you. And they give them reports. So basically I would say, okay, so Sally, this is Neil. And Neil and I have agreed to 3 times a week for 2 weeks, 2 times a week for 4 weeks, for a total of 14 visits. So what do you notice there as I'm giving the report to Sally? What do you notice? Like, what are some important points that I want to make sure as a PT I'm covering with them?
Yeah,
right,
I think that's awesome because you're being very specific, right? You're giving the frequency that they need to be in and the totality of what you expect them to be in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really key there. And it's interesting as we get through the rest of this script, what you'll find is, patients want to stop at 6 or they want to stop at 10. And it's like, no, you really need to, you need to be in my life, right? If you are not in my calendar, I am not going, me, meaning the collective me, I'm not going to make time down the road. And that's when I'm starting to feel better, when I'm less motivated. And so really this whole thing is looking at the overall lifespan of that patient during this plan of care and really getting it handled, right? So you want to make sure you're telling what you have.
Sorry. There's a little bit of a lag there.
I think we have a delay.
I think what you're saying there too, which makes a lot of sense, is that the PT in the patient side is the authority figure, right? So they should have had that, great dialogue, evaluation. They know what's like going on, what's going to be worked on. And then this is where training with the PTs come into place. Like, okay, you need to be specific in how many days that you're going to have them in and how long it's going to be, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it may be there. And then that, like you said, the reporting of that from the PT to the front desk in front of the patient, like reinstills that authority that this is what is needed to get me better as a patient.
Exactly. And you have to remember too, like, you don't need a patient playing mom off of dad, kind of attitude. You have teenagers, and so you fully understand that, just like I've lived through that. And it really needs to be, hey, this is what we're doing. We agreed on it. We come up front. Okay, hey, Sally, this is what we agreed on. This is what we're doing. And now what's basically happening is we're passing the patient from one position of authority to the other. So when the provider gives that plan of care, now they're like basically saying, hey, this patient care coordinator is the person that's going to work with you. They're going to help you. Funny fact, I didn't get the premise behind this actually came from the many, many dollars I paid for my kids to all have braces at the orthodontist, and how they moved us. My dentist here in Florida is the same thing. It's how they move you from one position to another. You're never left to your own devices. You are physically moved with another party so that you don't go off, you don't get lost on a tangent, basically. And so that's really where that came from. And it's just a really interesting method. And it works.
Control, right? I mean, it's good control. Yeah. It's positive control. It's great customer service, right? We can just call it what it is, right? Great customer service. Like, oh my gosh, I just feel so well handled, right? And we've all had those wonderful experiences, just like there at the orthodontist or the dentist, where you feel well taken care of because you have that handoff that's consistently, and you're not left to kind of figure it out on your own.
Exactly. And funny story, both of those businesses take cash. Like, people are paying them a lot of money to treat them. And so, for those of you looking at cash models or looking at going out of network or getting rid of certain insurance plans, this is a system that helps you to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
It also looks really good when you go to sell.
Yeah, it's a sales system, right? And we just don't perceive that a lot of times as owners, like how the front desk is really the sales part of the organization, right? And that whole handoff there, again, wherever you're buying stuff or having services, I love that you brought up those examples, because we can look outside our profession, and let's face it, we've had it pretty good for a long time under in the past under insurances. And I remember the days where we had like $5 copays, so it was like no biggie, right? Just come on in, your insurance will take care of it. But now we're having to deal with very high deductibles, high copays, cash services, cash service lines. And so you have to get much better at selling. You have to have better sales processes within your practice, just like everybody else, like dentists, orthodontists, chiropractors, you name it, right? Like these people operate off of cash models and people pay them for that, but they sure have a very good sales machine inside of their practice.
That's right. And that's key to success. So so that's the start, right? Is they bring them up front, they give them report. Now I'm basically, as the provider, I'm saying, okay, I'm passing Neil off to you. Okay. And so the second step in that is the patient care coordinator has to look back at the patient and say, okay, great, Neil, I'm going to get you scheduled 3 times a week for 2 weeks, 2 times a week for 4 weeks, for a total of 14 visits. And so what you're doing is you're showing that you're listening, right? You're showing that, okay, this is what you guys agreed to. This is what we're going to do, right? So there truly is that patient management from A to B.
Love it.
The top 10% of PT owners aren't just surviving, they're thriving. But what's their secret? Well, Neil Trickett's new Market to Grow book reveals how the top 10% of PT practices leverage marketing systems to simultaneously grow their new patients, attract top talent, and boost profit in their practice. You can learn from their secrets. Visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free copy of Market to Grow. Yes, you heard that right. We are shipping a free copy of Market to Grow to all podcast listeners who want it. Just visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free book. And now back to the show.
So, right? All right, good. So now we've done that. Now there's a couple keys to success here. Number one, don't pause. Don't sit there and don't let there be a lull in this conversation, because what happens when there's a lull? What happens with that patient? What do they start doing?
They start going off, right? In tangents.
Well, yeah. And also they start to think, okay, that's good. That's when if you pause, that's when the patient is going to put that stop in there. They're going to, that's enough. Or they start to think, or you don't want them, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but you don't want them thinking, to put it nicely. You want them to be like, okay, great. I just had this great evaluation. He or she told me what they're going to do. Now I'm up front. Get in their life, book yourself into their life. And so the patient care coordinator has 2 questions, 2 qualifying, because it is sales, questions that they have to ask before they just jump into scheduling, right? We want to eliminate any extraneous data. We want to eliminate objections as best we can. So the very first question I'm going to ask you, if I were the patient care coordinator, is, okay, Neil, so tell me, what days don't work for you?
I might say maybe Mondays and Wednesdays are harder for me because I have to work late.
Okay, great. So what you're doing there is you're asking the reverse of what's actually asked in most offices. Most of the time people say, Neil, what days are good for you? Right? Well, we don't want to ask that, because the minute you ask somebody what days are good for them, what times they want, number one, you might not be able to deliver that. So if I can't deliver the days that you want, now we have a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're not necessarily going to be as agreeable. And what we're trying to do here is I'm trying to build agreement with you as we go. So I say, what days don't work? You said Mondays and Wednesdays are difficult. So now I can look back at you and go, okay, great. I'm going to work really hard to avoid Mondays and Wednesdays. But think about it this way. If you told me Mondays and Wednesdays don't work, in theory, then what days should work?
Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That, right? And so what I want you guys to see here is, and most patients aren't going to be like, Monday through Friday doesn't work, right? But the minute you ask them what days do work, you open up 168 hours in the schedule in their mind. And all of a sudden, they cannot find an hour to work with you, right? It becomes, oh, I'm too busy on this day and I got too much going on here. My kids have something here and this doesn't work. And so instead we do the reverse. What days don't work? Patient tells us, we say, okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and avoid that. Mm-hmm. Now we're both kind of in this mental agreement of those other days, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday work. Okay. The second question that you have to ask is, what time of day works best? Morning, midday, afternoon, or evening? Now, obviously, if you close by 5 o'clock, get rid of the evening part of it. But you want to qualify at this point what time of day works best for that patient. we're not looking for a specific time. That's why we add in the morning, midday, afternoon, or evening. We're trying to get a time range. So we just need the patient to respond back with morning, midday, afternoon, or evening. So Neil, what time of day works best? Morning, midday, afternoon, or evening? Sorry.
Yeah, early morning. And sometimes I can do lunches.
Okay, great. So you're basically telling me mornings and lunches. So so with that, one of the things I want you guys to understand is you need to qualify that a little bit further. So now he's told me early mornings and sometimes lunches. So I get a little more agreement with him and find out what time of day, like what that means to him. To give you an example, our practice is open from 6:30 in the morning until 7 at night. Not every patient wants to come in at 6:30 in the morning, but some patients really do, right? So I'm going to look at him and I'm going to go, okay, great. I'm going to look between 6:30 and 9. And on other days that you tell me lunches work, I'm going to look between 11 and 2. Okay. Now it's always said as a statement. I didn't ask you, is it okay if I look between 6:30 and 9? Because if I ask you a yes/no question, and you've known me long enough, if I ask you a yes/no question, what are you more likely to say, yes or no? Exactly. And by the way, that is common in sales. You never ask a yes/no question. Instead, you say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look between 6:30 and 9 and 11 and 2. Now, he could come back at me. You could come back at me with a qualifier. You could say, you know what? I don't like to, if I had to be here by 6:30, I'd have to get up at like 5. I don't like to get up at 5. So can you look after 7? Right? And that's usually what you see is the patient will get back to you with that.
Yeah. Kind of narrow it down, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, if I've qualified the days and I've qualified the time frame that I'm looking in, now I can just go, right? I don't really have to come back and forth with you. I'm not saying I schedule without asking you. All patients should have their schedules out, right? Like, there are, I know about like you and me, like I have a lot of things going on in the next 2 weeks with the holidays and family and other stuff here. And so I do have to look at my schedule.
Do you find too, like in that, when you train, like you pre-frame, especially for evaluations, like before you come in, like, hey, here's what to expect. And then just bring your calendar with you or have your calendar and make sure that you're ready to schedule because we're going to have to schedule for future appointments, like that kind of pre-framing.
That and I'm so glad you brought that up because, you know, when first of all, you should be confirming your new patients the day before and you should have verbal confirmation. There should not be some big long message. Hi, this is Dee and blah, 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 you know, and I'm going on a voicemail because everybody goes swipe or they don't read the text, the voice to text or anything like that. And so you really need a verbal confirmation. And one of the points that you need to make sure you cover at the end of the scheduling call and on the confirmation call is, hey, Neil, I just need to remind you to make sure you bring your schedule because when you're finished with your provider, we are going to schedule all of your remaining visits. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Absolutely. There's another script, guys.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Go. Bonus script.
Yeah. And so you just want to keep that in mind because if you don't pre-frame it, then people come and they go, oh, I forgot my schedule or, oh, I need to go check my schedule. Now, come on, let's be real. How many people, other than the older, maybe some older people, I keep saying someday when I get to that age, I'm going to have one of those cute little calendars in my purse. I'm going to be one of those little ladies just for the fun of it. But, you know, we want to make sure that when we're, you know, we're calling them and confirming that we make sure that they, you know, they know. That's probably
a good thing too. Like and this is where a good front desk would see, okay, this patient's coming in, maybe they're only at visit 4 and they never, because there was some issue and they didn't have their calendar at the time to go beyond, say, the first week or 2 weeks. If they know that that's coming up and they're maybe doing extra confirmation, like, oh, hey, just make sure that you have your calendar with you. We're going to, you know, work on your scheduling.
Yeah. And that's another good point that you bring up. Remember I said at the very beginning of this, never let a patient leave your practice without having more visits. Never let the patient get to the, if they didn't schedule their full plan of care at the eval. A, you better have a list of all those patients so your staff is always aware and always checking. But B, never get to that last appointment because, again, if you're not in my life, me, meaning the collective me, it's going to be a lot harder to get that patient to commit and stay scheduled and take more appointments. So you want to make sure that the team understands all of the facets of this because remember, we can't help people if they're not scheduled and they don't
Yeah.
show up.
So Dee, that's an awesome script for
Yeah.
planning out our care. Now,
Yeah.
how do we effectively confirm appointments to prevent cancellations
Well,
and
yeah.
no-shows, which again is like, that's super hard around the holidays, but like, what's some of the tips for that one?
Yeah. Okay, good. Here's the thing. Very often we say, hey, you're back in at 9 a.m. or whatever we say when they check in. Reverse that script. So I'm checking you in. We do our little pleasantries. And then I look at you and go, hey, Neil, when do I get to see you again? Right? Or when are you back in? Or when's your next appointment? And the fun thing is you guys can play a game with it. You don't have to ask the same question, but it's, hey, when are you back in? Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I might say, you know what? I think Monday, but I'm not sure.
Okay, good. See, so it could go one of two ways. Either he's like Monday at 9, or he's like, I don't know. Now, if he says, I don't know, okay, that's no problem. I will tell you. Okay, Neil, I've got you scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. If you guys do this consistently with every patient, every visit, by visit 3, you can call me out if I'm wrong in your practice, but if you do it with every patient at every visit, 90% of your patients will be ready to say when their next appointment is by about visit 3. Like, I won't have to necessarily ask it and tell you. You're like, especially guys, oh my God, it's the funniest thing. Men, that's a game, right? They want to beat you to the punch and they're like, Monday, 9 a.m. Right? And so that's the goal, is that you're getting your patients, because here's the thing, people may put their whole life in this.
Mm-hmm.
Most people can't tell you what tomorrow looks like.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a training thing, like you're saying there, because you're training the patient, right? To know, and they're planning ahead.
Exactly.
You're giving them the future, like, hey, you should be back in for this next time frame. Do you know that next time frame? And stuff happens. I mean, like, things come up in someone's life. And so what they booked, 2 weeks ago, there may be a conflict that came up and they're just not thinking ahead.
That's right.
But it gives you that opportunity for them to go, oh shoot, you know what? Yeah, actually something came up. I had a meeting come up. I'm going to be out of town or whatever. Oh, then your front desk go, well, let me get you rescheduled then, so that you can keep your appointments.
Yeah. And It's much easier to reschedule somebody when they're standing there in front of you. Also, if I'm like, hey, when are you back in again? And by the way, we didn't finish that cycle, so let me finish that with you guys. You say, hey, Neil, when are you back in again? Neil, let's say he tells me Monday, 9 a.m. I can't just go, oh, okay. I got to say, does that still work for you? So that's the one yes or no question that I only allow it 2 yes or no questions in all of the training I do. And that is one of them. And the reason for that is, like Neil said, you could have gotten booked to go out of town. You could have a plumber coming. You could have your air conditioning guy coming, or deliveries coming at this time of year. And the problem occurs because the patient thinks, oh, the delivery window told me 8 to 12. My appointment's at 2. I'm going to be good. What we're trying to do there is get the patient to identify, oh, there is something slightly different in my daily life there, and have the conversation with your patient care coordinator, so that, because here's the thing, what if I have a dentist appointment at 8 and I'm supposed to see you and and then I'm supposed to come in at 9? Mm-hmm. How many times do people run late at that first appointment? And then what do? They call and they go, oh, I can't make it. We can't afford that. So I'd rather hear, oh, I have a dentist appointment at 8 a.m. Do you think I'll be here in time? And I'll go, you know what? Let's not risk it. Let's move you to XYZ, right? And so what it does is, again, it puts that patient care coordinator in control of their schedule, which is really what they're here to do.
I love that. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And so that can so help us with those holiday scheduling, just making sure that we're ahead with that. And so we've got short weeks coming up, right? Because a lot of clinics will be closed on Christmas Day, New Year's Day. And so we've got tighter weeks. We've got shorter availability, and hopefully practices are busy. So it's trying to squeeze someone in. So how can they schedule the patient their plan of care when they don't have much availability?
Yeah, so, and this really occurs throughout the year. There's going to be other weeks during the year where maybe you only have, for the rest of this week or next week, 3 or 4 appointments available, right? So you have to confront that elephant in the room before you jump into what days don't work, what time of day works best. Instead, if you have a very short week or you have a very tight schedule, what you're going to do is you're going to confront that first. Okay, Neil, before we really dig into your plan of care, since we're coming into a holiday week, I want to let you know that, our schedule is a little bit less availability. So I just need you to work with me for just next week. And the following week and after that, everything opens up and we're going to be able to find you a time. And so what that does is patient care coordinators need to be aware of what weeks, where we're at with things. Are we fully wide open? Are we jacked up? You never tell them you're fully wide open, by the way, but I know, okay, next week and the week after are a little bit tighter because I have staff out and whatever. If you can work with me for those 2 weeks, then I'm going to work with you and we're going to do what we can to get you scheduled, right? And so what you do is you take control of that tighter week. Once you get beyond that, you're like, okay, great. Now, what days don't work for you? What time of day works best? And then so when January opens up, now you're like, okay, good. I'm going to just get you scheduled right after that. So you kind of control it and then go right into the other step.
Yeah, I like that. So
Thanks.
You pre-frame it for them, right? You definitely make sure that they understand that there's constraints, right? And then that people say, oh, well, I can work it out or I can do this, and they're much more likely, to do that. So yeah, some great scripts there. I love that. And,
Thanks.
And I think it just shows that it's not rocket science, right? It's like it's what we normally would say if we kind of planned it out a little bit, right? And it's just those little nuances too, the little things that we do, whether it's the handoff, the walking them up there, being a little bit more specific with the times, the totality of the visits. The thing to think about is it usually the best answers are simple, right? And so that's why I love Dee and what she does and with the front office guru, because she has it's common sense stuff, right? And it's stuff that your team can easily do if they're trained right. And boy, does that make a difference down the line, right?
Yeah, and it puts them in control. The reason that it's such a struggle for your staff, it's not that they don't have common sense. It's that they've been brought up with these beautiful social graces. They want to be nice. They want to, and what happens is we misconstrue being nice with giving the patient what they want. And the reality is we can't. We have a schedule. This is what we have. This is how we need to be the ones controlling it. I will say that's the one thing doctors get right. You call them up and they're like, I can get you in. The first available is Monday, January 10th at 10 a.m. And people don't barter. They don't argue with it. They don't fight it. The reason we get into trouble is we ask them what they want and then we can't deliver it. So instead of doing that, we follow this script and they start to learn, oh, wait, this is how they do things.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we had some great advice there. Are there any other holiday cancellation tips that you have for our audience?
Yeah. So I have a couple of super quick tips that you guys can follow. Number one, look, people travel during the holidays. So my best piece of advice is never schedule a patient on the business day immediately following their return. Between bad weather, flights, trains, whatever, trains, planes, and automobiles, and traffic and weather, people get delayed. And so if you give a 1 day kind of padding between when the patient is supposed to return and their next appointment, well, on that day in between, you can verbally confirm them and find out, hey, Neil, did you make it home? How was your holidays? And Neil's like, oh, great holidays, but man, we're still stuck in traffic. I don't even think we're going to get home tonight. We might have to get a hotel. And I can be like, okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and move tomorrow's appointment. Let's get you on for Wednesday, right? And so what happens is we stay in control of that schedule and we're not hoping that Neil makes it home, right? Another really good tip is to, find out what are your patients doing during the holidays? Are they here? Are they away? If they're away, okay, we're not going to put our attention on those patients. But the ones that are in town, this is where they need to be, right? And with that, your patients are going to be like, oh, I'm going to be really busy, right? For me, I'm going to have all my kids, my mom, so many people, 4 dogs, it's going to be crazy here next week. And, so the natural inclination is, oh, I'm just going to be busy. Let's just wait a week. And the reality is I shouldn't wait a week because my pain's going to get worse. I'm not making progress. And heck, if I take a week off, what's to say I won't take 2 weeks off and then 3 weeks off and then I drop out. And so here's a really simple script that you can say to a patient anytime they tell you they're too busy. And it simply relates to, first of all, you have to know how long your visits are. let's say it's an hour. I call it the just 1 hour script. I would say to you, you know what, Neil, I totally understand. You're going to have your kids. Everything's going to be really busy. Your parents are going to be there. You're going to feel really busy next week. But where can you help me to find just 1 hour? Just 1 hour that I can make sure that you get the care that you need. And so what we're doing there is we're showing that customer service, but we're taking that 168 hours of perceived busyness. Where can you just help me to find just 1 hour?
Love that.
Right?
Yeah, it makes it simple, right? And they can think with it. Do you find too, like if you, in conjunction with what you just said, if the front desk, because they're trying to, the patient at that point, they might be feeling pretty good, right? But they we need to get them fully rehabilitated, their strength, their proprioception back, like all these kind of things. But maybe from the front desk, they don't have to necessarily know like all of the progress of the patient. They can simply put the authority back on the PT. Well, we want to make sure that you don't lose your progress, right? So if the FOMO, right, the fear of missing out, like the loss, and so if they kind of use that in conjunction, like, hey, we don't want you to lose progress. You've made such great gains here.
Yeah.
If you skip, we can go backwards. We don't want that. Let's get you in. Was that 1 hour that you could give me?
Yeah. And the thing you have to remember too is like, we're talking about the front desk right now, but your providers, the minute that eval shows up for that eval appointment, is no longer solely a front desk action to manage these patients. Your clinicians should be doing this as well. So your providers really need to be aware of who's in town and who's not. They should be refocusing their patients on their goals and be like, look, Neil, you were telling me you want to get back to running, 3 miles by, January 10th. We're getting really close. You're also getting really close. I don't want you to miss that deadline. This is what I need from you. So it's not just, so when the front office then says, hey, we really don't want you to backslide, the back, right? The clinicians have already said to them, hey, these were the goals you set at eval. You're getting close, but a break isn't going to give you that opportunity to achieve it in time. Let's keep you on the schedule.
I love that too. So I think that really indicates there, like, if you do have high cancellation rates, right, in your practice, and you do have a lot of holes in your schedule, it might be good as an owner or as a director of a clinic to just kind of observe, just look at what interactions are happening between the providers and the front desk. And is there good communication happening? Is there this handoff that's going off? And if it's not, that could be your key problem there. And it might not necessarily be just a front desk issue. It might be you have to talk to your clinicians about what's expected with knowing what's happening with the patient, how well is that communicated at the front desk, how important it is for the front desk, and even some simple things there of just having a quick meeting with the therapist that might be having some trouble with that and the front desk, and having them ask, hey, what can I do to make your job easier? And it takes a lot of pressure off of you as an owner, as a director, to have them to just easily talk it out and understand like the impact of their actions on the other person, because they're probably just unaware of those impacts of actions, right?
Exactly. And yet we do have to remember, providers aren't as aware of what patients are scheduled or not until they show up, right? Having both been PTs, we know that I'm going to look at today's schedule, and so I don't necessarily know until I get to the end of the week. I'm like, where the heck did Neil go? Like, I didn't see him all week, right? And so the providers, I wouldn't just listen to the front desk and what the front desk and the providers are saying. I would look at the conversations the providers are having with their patients. Are they focused on patient goals, not their goals? Let's be real. Your patients don't care about your goals. They don't care about increasing range of motion, increasing strength, whatever. They care about, I want to be able to take that chocolate lab outside and run her for 25 minutes and not fall on my face because she can outrun me every day, whatever. They want to know that they can get in their pool and swim again, or that they can get on an airplane and go visit their mom and not, be in back pain. And so are the therapists focusing on the patient goals at every visit, or are they, does it just become this chit chat and then exercise and things like that? And so it really, if your schedule drops during the holidays, it's usually a sign of a bigger issue of everybody's kind of lost their scripting and their focus. And so a great New Year goal, since we are right here before the New Year, is to really look at the team and really get the team reoriented to what is their purpose. And their purpose is to help people. So how do we do that? What's my role? What's your role? How are we going to work together with these patients and not feel like we're overwhelmed, but also make sure that people are getting help. And that's truly the ultimate of why we're here.
Yeah, love it. And so we've got Dee here, the front office guru, no doubt. And Dee, what's the best way for people to find out more about what you do to help that can help them?
Yeah, well, you can email me at d.bills@clinicaccelerator.com. I have joined Front Office Guru with Clinic Accelerator now so that we have a much larger opportunity to help people. And so if you email me at d.bills@clinicaccelerator.com, or you go to clinicaccelerator.com, you can go to the front desk training and you can reach out and schedule a call, and the team will be happy to help you. If you're looking to train your front office manager or train your front desk or your entire team, let us know. We're happy to help.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Dee. Yeah, fantastic group there, Clinic Accelerator. Definitely check them out if you haven't. Clinicaccelerator.com, and Dee's front office training is right through there too. So definitely check that out. So Dee, thank you so much. Fantastic advice today.
Thank you, my friend.
That's why I always call you the front office guru. And so for all our audience, thank you for being on the podcast with us today. I hope you got some great insights on how to avoid those holiday cancellations and have more control at your front desk. Don't forget to follow us on the podcast and subscribe, as well as on our YouTube channel. Got tons of advice, as well as all these podcasts are on there too. And don't forget to join our school account too, school.com. You can check out Market to Grow, where you can join that for free and get tons of training. And also practicepromotions.net. Great downloads for you on how to market your practice, as well as free tips and advice on there too. So this is Neil from the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in this holiday season and prosperity in the new year.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click write a review. Thanks.